I filmed this video over a week ago, and the day before I wanted to post it is the day that people all over America began to protest not only the murder, point blank period, murder of George Floyd at the hands of the Minneapolis Police Department, the epidemic that is police brutality and racial inequality in America. And I did not feel it was appropriate to post or promote anything regarding myself. I did not feel like it was appropriate to hee hee ha ha for 40 minutes. I took last week to shut up and listen, to educate myself on how to be a better ally, and to amplify Black voices. I will continue to do that. I will post this video and all videos for the foreseeable future with links in the description on how to donate to Black Lives Matter, petitions to sign, resources to educate yourself, and other ways that you can get involved, links to contact your representatives. Black Lives Matter, defund the police. Enjoy the video.
What's up, guys? It's V Renee. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. This is the first video in a series that I want to start doing called I Read Blank, so you don't have to. And today's video is going to be about After by Anna Todd. Right up at the top, I just want to give a few disclaimers. This is going to be full of spoilers. I'm talking about how shitty a book was, and you really can't mention it without talking about why it was shitty, hence the spoilers. Also, brief content warnings. We are going to be talking about mental illness, sexual assault, toxic relationships, very briefly the first two, but the third thing is what the entire book is about. So if any of that's triggering to you, I will put content warnings when I talk about mental illness and sexual assault on the screen, but the entirety of the video is pretty much going to be about the toxic relationship. So if that's going to be harmful to you to listen to think about, please don't watch this. Also, if you wanted to read the book or watch the movie, because yes, this was turned into a movie and multiple movies apparently, I don't even want to get into how that makes me feel as an author, that this shit show is gonna make this woman millions of dollars. Don't watch this. And also, another thing, this is not safe for work because the majority of this book is sexual. There's a lot of sexual content that we're going to be talking about, not explicitly, but enough that your mom might get mad if she hears you watching this. So like, just be aware. There, all the triggers will also be in the description below. But without further ado, we're going to talk about After. First of all, this book was originally written on Wattpad. If you don't know what Wattpad is, it is a place where aspiring writers can kind of put their fan fiction, their original stories. This is Harry Styles fan fiction. First of all, okay? The guy's name is Hardin Scott. His initials are HS.
Because this is Harry Styles fan fiction.
I just want to point that out. Okay. So basically I listened to this on an audiobook. I took notes as I went along, and I just really quickly wanted to run through things I had issues with, things that made this really cringe and unenjoyable, and I broke it down in different categories. So I'm going to talk about Tessa's slut-shamey, not like other girlsy Mary Soonis. I'm going to talk about Hardin's negging. This book is about a girl named Tessa that goes to college. She meets a guy named Hardin. They develop this really toxic romantic relationship. And there's a big twist at the end that makes a lot of the writing actually make sense. It's still bad writing. That's another category, is just shitty writing and bad writing choices and inconsistencies. Another category is times I full body cringed, times I literally screamed and had to stop the audiobook because I was like, what just happened? Things that reminded me of Twilight, because there are a couple really obvious like spots where I'm like, you literally copied this from Twilight. Like, I know this was fan fiction at one point, or like an original Wattpad story at one point, but once you put it in publication, you got to try to like layer your influences and make them a little more subtle. Oh, and then the final category is the ridiculousness of another character named Noah, who is Tessa's boyfriend when she goes to college, and Tessa's mother, who is just like the worst. So like, I'm just gonna go through, I'll put it on the screen which category I'm talking about.
Hey, editing Victoria here, and I'm not gonna do that.
So times when Tessa was a slut shamer / not like other girls. Chapter 1, she says, whatever else teenagers do, that wasn't me. Chapter 13, she is 18 years old, and she mentions that she's aware that her hips and breasts are larger than most women her age. If you don't know, women are fully developed at 18. I don't know what she means by that. Like, if you're 13 and you got a D cup, like, that's sometimes a little embarrassing. Like, that, but you're all full grown women. Like, I don't know what you mean by most women my age. Chapter 16, she goes to a frat party and takes a shot, and Hardin is immediately disappointed in her because she's not like other girls. By the way, Hardin has a British accent, if it wasn't obvious enough that this is fucking Harry Styles fanfiction, okay? She says, sorry if I don't dress like a slut. She dresses like a Mormon soccer mom. She wears pleated skirts, khaki skirts, like polo.
Edit in Victoria again. Not to say that there's anything wrong with wearing long pleated skirts and polo shirts if that's what you want to wear. I'm just saying when you use it to attack other women, saying that they dress like sluts when you dress like a normal nice girl, that's not cool.
She wants to be an author or work in publishing because she is the Mary Sue of our generation. Move over Bella Swan. If you don't know what a Mary Sue is, look it up. It's basically when the author self-inserts and makes the person that they see themselves as, or the main character, a reflection of them, but the most perfect person in the story. We call that a Mary Sue. Chapter 22, Hardin asks if she's OCD or something because she likes her notes a certain way. Yikes, guys, we don't say stuff like that. Chapter 24, she says he really is bipolar. We don't say shit like that. Chapter 25, they go swimming, and she is so not like other girls and so like beautiful but doesn't know it that when she strips to go swimming with this guy who she's already made out with twice, his cheeks turn red and he like looks really flustered, and she's like, oh, he must be cold in the water because there's no way he's getting flustered by looking at me. It's like he's already made out with you and made it very clear that he's sexually attracted to you. Why are you acting like you don't understand that? Tess is also the most selfish person on the face of the planet this entire time. She has a boyfriend, okay? Chapter 27, she gets rejected by Hardin and she calls her boyfriend, and then she mentions that she called her boyfriend in front of Hardin just to make him jealous. Okay, it gets worse, guys. Chapter 39, she calls Molly a slut. She says she is a slut. Chapter 45, they run into Hardin's dad, who he does not have a good relationship with. He invites them to dinner. Tessa says she'll go. Hardin doesn't want to go. He does not have a good relationship with his father, and we're going to find out why a little bit later on. And then she says that if he doesn't want to go with her, she will go to his father's house for dinner with another man, with another guy. Because he can't tell her what to do. She can do what she wants. I'm sorry. What? While she's at Hardin's house, he performs oral sex on her. I was trying to figure out like a nice way to say that. There is no nice way. Upstairs, they come back down for the rest of dinner, and then she stays the night because it starts raining, and she asks for a separate room because she has a boyfriend. She's still, there's 98 chapters. This is chapter 49. She still has a boyfriend. Chapter 52, she calls Molly part-time hoe Molly. Chapter 54, she literally says, I'm not like the other girls. Chapter 57, it's almost Tuesday, and Molly has used up her skank quota for the week. Chapter 59, Molly is perched on her lap like the whore she is. Chapter 65, another guy tells her, you're different from the rest of the girls here. Chapter 81, her roommate Steph is crying, and she asks her why, and we find out that her boyfriend Tristan was talking to Molly, and Molly is such a whore that Steph just knows that Molly made out with him and she didn't see it, and they broke up because Molly's such a hoe. So those are just examples of what we're dealing with in terms of Tessa, the main character, and as well as in terms of the writing of After, the hatred of other women, the internalized misogyny, and like you don't know your beautifulness of Tessa, but she's not as bad as Hardin. So now we're going to talk about Hardin's negging. Chapter 6, one of the very first instances that we have with Hardin is Tessa's real name is Teresa. First of all, I don't know how he fucking knows that because she has not said that her name is Teresa. He keeps calling her Teresa. She says, I prefer to go by Tessa, and he just keeps calling her Teresa. That's fucking annoying. As someone whose name is Victoria, who hates being called Vicky and gets called Vicky often, this is the one instance that I will agree with Tessa. They're in a class together. Chapter 13, they're walking away from class, and she's looking at him because he's acting fucking weird, and then he screams at her, stop staring at me, and walks away. Chapter 16, you remember when I said that Tessa went to a frat party and took a vodka shot and Hardin was disappointed in her? He was disappointed because she's not like other girls. You know why he was also disappointed? He doesn't drink. He thought she was different from the other girls. Chapter 26, they go somewhere together. I don't remember where. I think car shopping or something. They start making out in his car. Noah calls Tessa. She ignores the call to keep hanging out with Hardin, which is messed up. But like Hardin shouldn't care because she's still making out with him. And he's like, oh, don't break up with him on my account. There's nothing going on between us. And it's like, you just spent the whole day together car shopping. You keep saying that you don't date and that this isn't a date. But you've been on several dates with her. And she just met your dad. So like, I get that you're mad that she still has a boyfriend, but like, not your problem. I don't know. Like, she's still making out with you, dude. Like, chapter 29. So, Tessa's friend from class, Landon, is Hardin's like soon-to-be stepbrother, and Landon calls her and is like, Hardin's at his dad's house, wrecking everything. He's mad that her parents are getting married. Fine, whatever. She goes over there. He's drunk and like breaking everything, and he's like, why'd you even come over here? Like, your boyfriend's waiting for you in the dorm. Because her boyfriend, by the way, oh, a whole other thing I forgot to mention about Tessa. This happens when her boyfriend is in town visiting her, and she takes her boyfriend's car to go see if Hardin is okay, and then stays the night. After what I'm about to tell you that Hardin says to her and Hardin does to her, she stays the night with him while her boyfriend is waiting in the dorm. She's trying to help Landon clean up all this shit. She cuts her hand on some glass. Hardin like dresses her little cut with a band-aid immediately after telling her that she's pathetic, and just manipulation station nation. It's so much. She goes to stay in the guest room. He comes in, he forces himself on her, kisses her when she says no, and then he says, I need you. And then she's like, oh God, fuck it. Like, I'm mad at him, but he's so hot I can't stay away. Because he's so manipulative that he's like, I need you, please don't leave. And she's like, okay, I won't. And then I have in the next chapter notes what I just told you, that she stays the night with Hardin while Noah is in the dorm waiting for her. I have a whole section about Noah because he's too good for this world, and he's also the ultimate simp, and like, I just feel bad for him. We'll get to it. Here's the thing. In chapter 37, she and Hardin get in a fight, and Hardin tells Steph, I will ruin Tessa if she ever comes around to me again. And then cut to chapter 39. She's at a restaurant with some people. He shows up, and she gets a burger, and it has ketchup on it, and he knows she doesn't like ketchup, and he makes a whole scene at the restaurant making sure that her burger gets corrected, and then takes her home. So 2 chapters ago, you're like, I will fucking ruin this girl if she ever talks to me again. And then immediately 2 chapters later, you're like, she doesn't like ketchup on a burger, and I'll make sure she gets home safe because you guys have been drinking. Sir? Red flags. There's just, the page is covered in red flags, guys. The whole book is a red flag. Chapter 44, Tessa's putting on some makeup, and he says, I thought you didn't wear makeup. And she's like, I like it. He's like, you don't need it. She's like, well, I like it. And he's like, well, you're bad at putting it on. What kind of negging shit is that? Chapter 48, they're making out or whatever, or he's giving her oral sex or something, and he fingers her, and it literally says, without my permission, he put a finger inside me. She makes it explicitly clear that she did not say it was okay. Chapter 59, they're fighting because Hardin didn't invite Tessa to this party, so Tessa shows up anyway. When she gets there, Molly is sitting on Hardin's lap like the host she is. That's where that came from. They're playing Truth or Dare, and Molly dares Tessa to kiss another guy. So then Hardin dares Molly to kiss him in front of Tessa, and they have a major fight in the next chapter. Because, by the way, these chapter breaks make no sense. There's 98 chapters, and they usually you would end a chapter, here's a mini writing lesson, usually you would end a chapter when like a scene changes, or like on a cliffhanger when something serious is about to happen, or when you need to cut time and like, you know, fast forward a little bit. They just break randomly whenever she was like, I think it must have been with Wattpad, I guess you'd write a chapter and then you'd come back and you'd continue writing like when you had time again, and when they turned it into a book they just never fixed the breaks. Because that's the only thing I can think of is of why they actually just occurred to me why they break the way they do is like she was writing and then like she had to go make dinner and she just stopped writing. But like fix it for your novel that you publish. So anyway, it's another chapter. They get in a fight outside and she smacks the shit out of him with like she should have. And then she calls Landon to pick her up, and Hardin confesses that he loves her in front of everyone at the party, and she calls him sick, which I'm like, good for you. Fuck Hardin. Like, this is the one time I like approve of what you're doing, Tessa. Chapter 64, we find out Hardin never tells anyone he loves them, not even his mother, who he loves most in the world. So, like, for him to say to Tessa, she's like, you're really sick to use those words against me, and blah, blah, blah. He asked for one more chance again. He's already done this, like, 3 different times. That's the other thing. The same shit keeps happening in this book over and over and over. And that is why it's 98 chapters. Fix it. Stop it. Get some help. Chapter 65, they go to this bonfire. She goes with another guy because she and Hardin are fighting. Hardin comes to a bonfire with another girl who turns out to be gay. I don't know what the point of this was, to make her mad again, to make Tessa jealous again. I don't fucking know. Chapter 67, Hardin says, you constantly provoke me. I'm just gonna... Chapter 68, he takes her shirt off, and it's explicitly mentioned again that that was without her permission. I don't know why you would keep mentioning that if you didn't want us to understand that he just does things without making sure that it's cool with her. Even though sometimes when they're doing other sexual stuff, he's like, is this okay? Are you sure it's okay? But then sometimes it's like whatever he wants to do and doesn't care. It's very bizarre. There's character development, character integrity, just there's none. Chapter 72, they're at a dinner with Hardin's dad. Hardin and his dad get into a thing, and so Hardin goes up to his room, starts destroying the computer, the lamp, throwing stuff around with Tessa in the room. Like, chapter 74, Hardin asks her to move in with him. They have known each other for 2 months. 60 days. 60 days. We find out Hardin has a job at a different publishing house that he never told Tessa about, that we had no idea about. He says he has a job. I will say, the twist at the end makes some of this stuff make more sense, but the fact that I had to read 96 chapters before we get to that twist, because it ends right as the twist happens, because it's a sequel bait, I would stop reading this if I was actually interested in what was happening. I would have stopped reading it like chapter 10. That's not acceptable. It's absolutely not acceptable. So just remember, he just asked her to move in with him. She wants to know more about his job, and he freaks the fuck out. Again, this makes more sense at the end when you find out that he actually probably doesn't actually have a job. That's never like made clear, but that he has this money because he made a bet with his friends that he could take Tessa's V card. Okay, we're just gonna go ahead and say it. That was the twist. Maybe it was more obvious to other people, but I did not see that coming. I thought he was selling drugs because he had like shitty friends. I thought he was selling drugs. So that's where he got all the money from. That's why he has money to like put down on the apartment and stuff. I don't think he actually has a job. It's never mentioned again that he has a job. We never see him work. So I'm pretty sure it was a cover for why he had all that money. But again, we don't know. That's never answered here. And then in the very next chapter, she doesn't want to sleep in the same bed as him, and he says he has nightmares, and so he says, you know what happens when I sleep without you, Tess. Negging asshole. Chapter 79, he still won't talk to her about his job, still wants her to move in with him. Chapter 80, she says hi to a guy in the hall at her internship while Hardin is there, and he goes cuckoo bananas and is like, that guy's fucking flirting with you, you shouldn't talk to him, like blah 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 blah. Guys. Chapter 83, they're at a party. Hardin didn't want Tessa to come downstairs to the party because there was a bunch of guys that he says are like rough guys. We still don't really understand at this point why. I thought they were drug dealers, and that's why I thought he didn't want her around him, but I guess it's just because he made the bet with them. It doesn't make any sense. They're playing suck and blow. The guy, if you don't know what that is, Google it, and the guy kisses Tessa, and Hardin starts choking him out on the lawn for kissing Tessa during a mouth-to-mouth game. Chapter 84, he says, if you're gonna have a problem with every girl I've slept with, you'll want to transfer schools. He kicks her out of his room. By the time she reaches the door, he's begging her to come back. Manipulation, negging asshole. Chapter 87, when he took her virginity, the sheets were bloody. She asked him to get rid of them so that her roommate wouldn't see. He left them in the trunk. He never got rid of them. And at the time, in chapter 87, you're like, that's weird, why not? And then you realize in chapter 96, when you learn about the bet, it's because he wanted to show them to his friends to prove he won the bet. He kept the bloody sheets to prove that he won the bet. Chapter 89, Hardin doesn't come home for like 2 days, doesn't text her. When he does come home, she's mad at him, obviously, and he's mad at her for being all in his case all the time. Chapter 95, Tessa asks what Hardin's going to be up to because he says he's going to be out and about and not be around, and he freaks out on her about not letting stuff go. And this is what leads her to hunt down her old roommate, Steph. Hardin shows up, everyone's there, and it comes out that they live together. And that's when everybody was like, wow, you took this really far. And she's like, took what really far? And then they're like, oh, he bet that he could take your V card. Now you guys live together. It's so weird. But that happens in the last 2 chapters of this 98 chapter story. Sequel bait. Bullshit. The next thing I'm going to talk about kind of all together is miscellaneous, like really weird writing choices and Twilight comparisons. And then I'm going to move on to like, I took count of the times that I full body cringed and had to stop listening to the audiobook. The heavy-handedness. They're talking about Pride and Prejudice, and Hardin says something to the effect of like, a man who is rude and intolerable being made into a romantic hero. It's ridiculous, when that is exactly what happens. Chapter 22, this is like the 3rd or 4th time she says Hardin's eyes were burning into mine. I don't know what that means. That makes no sense. Chapter 22, she also says Steph's eyes are clapping with glee. Chapter 23, they're talking about the use of foreshadowing in Pride and Prejudice, about if you could tell that Darcy and Elizabeth would end up together. Just everything that happens in the English lit class with them together is just like... Chapter 25, they're in the middle of like getting hot and heavy, and she says my hormones are out of control multiple times while they're doing stuff. She's like, my hormones were raging. Like, who is consciously thinking about their hormones when they're getting busy? Another thing that happens throughout the book that was cringy, not enough to make me like full body cringe, turn it off. She describes his lips as pink all the time. She's like, and I looked at his pink lips. His pink lips touched me, pink lips. And I was just like, that is gross. That grossed me out. Like, pink lips? I have pink lips right now. Does Hardin have pink lips? Chapter 32, I don't know if it's his smile or the fact that he's only in boxers, but I'm in a much better mood than before. And you want to call Molly a skank-ass hoe? You're a skank-ass hoe. Chapter 33, she's hanging out with Hardin, and she's still with Noah at this point. And she says, I can behave any way I want with Hardin tonight because in the morning I'm going to tell him to leave me alone forever. I'm sorry. What? You just get a free pass for the night? Chapter 47, she says, he rubs the back of his neck like he always does. That is the first time that she mentions him rubbing the back of his neck. He runs his hands through his hair a lot in the book. Chapter 47 of 98 is the first time she mentions him rubbing the back of his neck like he always does. And again, I understand this was a Wattpad story and like originally, but when you make it into a published fucking novel, fix that stuff. Have someone take a second pass at it. I don't understand.
I don't understand, bitch. I don't understand.
Chapter 68. They have done everything but actually have sex, and he's like, we not yet. And the only reason I can think of is because this book needs to be another 30 chapters. Chapter 89, we're talking about she's going to her internship like every single day. I guess she's not going to class anymore. She never talks about going to class. Like, as soon as she starts her internship, like, she just stops going to fucking school. She's a freshman. This is her first semester of college. Right here, content warning for sexual assault. Hardin hates his father because his father used to go out and drink. He pissed some people off at the bar. The people at the bar went to his house and gang assaulted Hardin's mother, and Hardin saw it. That's fucking dark and horrible. Chapter 94, talking about Hardin's father. Hardin's father rubs the back of his neck just like Hardin. Hardin did that one time. Hardin never, ever, ever does it again. Another weird writing thing is that everyone introduces themselves by their first and last name, which I've never done in the history of the world ever. The very beginning, Tessa thinks Hardin is her roommate Steph's boyfriend, and she's like, Hardin Scott is not my boyfriend. The only reason that you would ever do that is because you're trying to ham-fistedly shove the love interest's full name into the throats of the reader. If you can't do it organically, don't do it. They're in class together. She could have seen his full name on a paper he was writing. There's so many other ways. It's gross. I hate it. Chapter 23 has so much like Twilight vibes that I find it hard to believe that she didn't just finish reading Twilight when she wrote this chapter on Wattpad. Your mood swings give me a headache. I should stay away from him. I know he's dangerous. He has not done anything to suggest that he's dangerous. He's a little moody. He has tattoos. Is that why he's dangerous? You know he's dangerous? Again, if she would have made it the twist that he was a drug dealer or something, and that like the bad people he didn't want Tessa around were like a gang that he was in, would make so much more sense. He doesn't do a single dangerous thing, like at all. Dangerous to her virginity, maybe. Dangerous to like her relationship with her boyfriend because she's hot for him. Okay, maybe. Also in chapter 23, I don't want to stay away from you anymore. There is a point, I'm trying to find it, chapter 50, dazzling green eyes. I stared into his dazzling green eyes. Who else had dazzling eyes? Yeah. I'll talk a little bit about Noah and Tessa's mother, and then I will list all the times that I full body cringed while reading after. First of all, she's known Noah, her boyfriend, back home since she was like 10 years old. Chapter 14, she mentions that he is like a little brother to her. Chapter 18, it comes out that she's never had sex with her boyfriend. She says, we don't need to have sex. We have fun by going to the movies and on walks. She never, ever tells Noah that she kissed somebody else. She keeps it a secret up until Hardin literally barges into her dorm room while Noah is there and makes her tell him. When she stayed the night at Hardin's and Noah didn't know where she was, he called her a bunch of times. When she turned her phone back on, there was no messages because Hardin went through her phone and deleted all the voicemails. Negging, toxic, bullshit. She goes swimming with Hardin and she literally says, this is 7 chapters after she said, me and Noah have fun by going to the movies. She says, I'm having real fun, not watching a movie fun. Wow, Noah did not deserve that. Chapter 27, Hardin comes while Noah's there and Hardin says, Noah, that's a nice cardigan you're wearing. And I was like, oh no, he did not. Just attack. I'm getting upset. Like, I'm not getting upset, but like I'm getting embarrassed on like the writer's behalf. Noah says, thanks, I got it from the Gap. Yeah. Poor baby. Chapter 35, Noah finally stands up for himself and is like, what the fuck? But then he immediately ruins it by being like, you're hanging out with these gothic people. Not goth. Gothic. Like, chapter 40, they break up obviously in chapter 35 because Hardin barges in and is like, tell him that we're in love, whatever. Chapter 40, Noah's on the phone with Tessa and if she promises nothing will happen with Hardin, he will get back together with her. And she says, okay. We were only halfway through the book. I knew that wasn't gonna last. Why would you hurt this boy again? Like, why? He didn't do anything. Chapter 41. They just got back together. She lets Hardin stay the night in her dorm and they watch movies together. Your boyfriend that you just got back together with asked you not to see this boy anymore. And you're like, yeah, of course, I'm gonna stay away from this boy. And then the next chapter, you're watching a movie in your bed with him. I'm sorry, I think he was on the floor and she was in the bed. Something like that. You're in your room together alone. Absolutely not. Chapter 74, Tessa's mom shows up and is like, I convinced Noah to take you back, despite you being a whore. She calls Hardin a freak. She threatens to take away the financial help that she's giving Tessa so that Tessa can stay in her dorm if she doesn't stop dating Hardin. And then in chapter 86, Noah, who has been through enough, E-N-U-F, enough with Tessa, calls her and offers to talk to her mom on her behalf because he's just too good for this world. Like, talk about a cinnamon roll. I feel horrible for him. He's boring as hell, but he also didn't deserve any of the shit that Tessa did to him. None of it. Chapter 92, Tessa's mom finds out that she's moved in with Hardin. She shows up to the house, calls her stupid for doing it, which, like, yeah, you moved in with a boy you've known for 3 months at this point in the story. Tessa calls her mom a bitch. Tessa brings up her alcoholic father, and then Tessa's mom slaps the shit out of her. And a very weird thread throughout this entire story is how judgmental both Noah and Tessa's mom are, and Tessa at first, about tattoos. Tessa's mom almost has a pulmonary embolism when she sees Steph, who's Tessa's roommate, and the tattoos and red dyed hair that Steph has. Like, people like this exist, ? And finally, because I love to suffer and you guys love watching me suffer, I'm going to read aloud every time I full body cringed and had to turn off the audiobook. There are 39. The first full body cringe actually doesn't occur until chapter 23. Hardin says, "You're thinking about me and you have that feeling down there, don't you, Teresa?" Second full body cringe. He says, "These lips, the things you could do with them." Same chapter. "Oh, Hardin," I moan and squeeze him with my legs. "I want to make you moan my name over and over again," he replies. Same chapter. She goes to cover up and he's like, "Don't cover yourself from me. I've been with so many girls, but none like you." And then he says they're not going to do it, but there are many things he wants to do to her first. And at this point, my body is contorted like a jumbo shrimp. And then he fingers her. The whole scene, I won't even. Same chapter. This is all chapter 25. She's like, "You haven't said a word to me since," and he interrupts and says, "Since I gave you your first orgasm." Chapter 30, Hardin says, "You know who I think you are when you're with me?" She says, "Who?" And he says, "Yourself." Chapter 31. He's telling her if she says the word, he'll leave her alone. "Tell me, Teresa." He coos and I whimper. "Hardin," I whisper. The word coo, that was the worst part of it. Chapter 32, he says her clothes hide how sexy and curvy her body really is. He says, "Sexy and curvy." How sexy and curvy your body really is. Both. Chapter 33, this is Tessa speaking, or thinking. "I know this happiness isn't going to last." The happiness being her straddling this guy that's not her boyfriend. "And I feel like Cinderella waiting for the clock to strike midnight." Still the same chapter. "I am just as intoxicated by Hardin as Hardin is by the bottle of scotch he drank." Same chapter. "Who is this girl straddling this punk boy and asking to touch him ... down there?" Next chapter, same scene, because again, chapter breaks make no sense. He says he wants to taste her, and this bitch licks her lips and is like, "Why would he ask? We've been kissing this whole time." And he says, "No, down there." Chapter 36, "I'm a moth to Hardin's flame and he never hesitates to burn me." I'm sweating. Sweating. Chapter 48, "Oh, Tessa, the things you do to me." Chapter 51, he says, "Give me another chance." She says, "You said you don't date." And he said, "Not before you," which is fine if that wasn't all happening in her dorm room in front of her boyfriend. And then she says, "You should go." And Noah says, "Yeah, get out of here." And then she says, "No, Noah, you should go." What? Honestly though, I thought they were gonna start fucking right in front of him, so like at least she said leave. Same chapter. "I know it is the calm before the storm, but Hardin is my anchor. I just pray he doesn't pull me under." Chapter 53. He tells her to S his C. I don't even like saying that word. And then she says, "Yeah, if you want me to." And then he asks her if she's ever seen one before. And she says, "Yeah, I walked in on a neighbor watching a naughty movie." And then everything about her seeing his for the first time is cringe. I didn't even write any of it down because I was just praying to get through it. And then he says, because of course, she's the best he's ever had. That she's the best he's ever had. Chapter 56. "I give the proud rebel a kiss on his cheek." Who? The what? The what? Chapter 57, she literally says, or thinks, "I know getting eaten out wasn't on my schedule this morning, but I can't think of a better way to start my day." Chapter 67, she says, "I love this damaged, self-loathing asshole." Chapter 68, again, another Twilight thing. He is like a drug. Same chapter. She tells him to undress, and he says, Yes, ma'am. Chapter 70, when Hardin calls me baby, my blood sings in my veins. I don't know what that means, but it sounds unhealthy. Chapter 71, I love that you are so shy and innocent, but you let me do dirty things to you. Chapter 72, no, I'm nice because I love you, he whispers, and I swoon. Sleep, beautiful. Chapter 78 is when they finally actually sleep together. And he basically is like, that was the best, and she's like, it couldn't have been the best you ever had, and he's like, no, it's different when you love them. So then she's like laying there, and she's like laying with this beautiful flawed man who has just made love for the first time in his life. Chapter 84, Hardin says, I happen to be vigorously in love with you. Vigorously in love? Vigorously? That's the word you wanted to use? Vigorously? Chapter 86, the entire description of their apartment makes no fucking sense. She calls it modern but old. She calls the tiles fun and indie. I don't know. Also, the fact that she has no bills and no credit and somehow got an apartment. She's on the lease. They mentioned that she's on the lease. This might just be a 25-year-old thing. You don't get on a lease if you don't have any credit. You don't. Unless somebody co-signs for you and your mom doesn't know you're moving in. So who did? And this is when I remembered and realized they have only known each other for 3 months. 3 months. 3. 1, 2, 3. 3 months. And they live together. Chapter 93, they're on their way to his dad's wedding, and Hardin, who listens to metal, we've been told multiple times. Tessa's favorite band is The Fray, so he gave The Fray another try, is what he says. And he has the CD in his car, and he plays her Never Say Never by The Fray. And we reach peak fanfic material. Peak. It is 1 p.m. and I need a drink after that. So that was after. I read after, so you don't have to. And now you know why. You don't have to. Overall, I guess out of 10, I'd give this a 5, a 6. It wasn't horrible. The writing was bad. The characters sucked. I did want to know what was going to happen, and as frustrated as I was that we kept doing the same shit over and over and over for 90 chapters, again, I think if the twist would have come earlier, or if there would have been some kind of explanation for his behavior earlier, it wouldn't have been so cringy. Like, if I would have understood before chapter 90 why he hated his dad, would have made I wouldn't have been so mad when he started ripping shit up in the house. Do you know what I mean? The structure was just so weird, and again, for a Wattpad story, fine, but that lady, Anna Todd, is like a millionaire now off of this story. You can't tell me she's not. They made a Netflix movie out of it, like multiple. They're making more of the whole, I guess it's a whole series. So that frustrates me, that you couldn't even make a second pass and like make sure that Hardin actually rubbed the back of his neck before chapter 47 when you say he always does it. Like, that's just the little stuff that's so fucking annoying to me. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. The next book in I Read Blink So You Don't Have To is going to be Hush Hush by Becca Fitzpatrick. This was highly recommended like a bunch of times in my Instagram DMs. I haven't started it yet because I needed a couple days to decompress after. But in the meantime, I will see you next time. Bye.